Have you ever heard a story so strange, so unbelievable, that you had to know more? What if I told you there was a city that vanished every single night, only to reappear in the morning, with none of its residents knowing anything had happened? This is the legend of Bramhall and the 10-year-old boy who became its unlikely savior. Our story begins not in the mysterious city itself, but in a small bedroom in England. Meet Dom, a quiet, 10-year-old boy, a bit of a loner, who found his greatest companion in a brand new CB radio. He'd spend hours twisting the dials, listening to the crackle and hiss of distant conversations. One evening, tuning into Channel 24 on Mid-Block FM, he heard something that would change his life forever. A voice, faint and filled with desperation, crackled through the speaker. It was a police officer calling for help. Dom, intrigued, keyed his microphone and replied. He learned the officer was in a city called Bramhall, a place in Ireland. This baffled Dom. How could his little CB radio, sitting on his desk in England, reach all the way to Ireland? It seemed impossible. The officer's story was even more unbelievable. He claimed his city, Bramhall, would completely disappear every night when darkness fell? Come morning, it would return, but no one remembered. Life would just continue. Was it mass memory loss, something else entirely? The officer was the only one who seemed to know, and he was desperate for help. At first, Dom thought it was a prank, a joke being played on the new kid with the CB radio, but night after night, the same voice was there, the same desperate plea. The police officer would describe the encroaching emptiness, the feeling of his world dissolving around him. Dom started to believe him, but what could he do? He was just a kid, hundreds of miles away. How could a 10-year-old loner save an entire city? He had to try something. Dom started telling people. His parents, his teachers, his friends at school. He told them about the disappearing city of Bramhall and the lonely police officer trapped in a nightly void. But no one believed him. They'd pat him on the head, tell him he had a great imagination, or just dismiss it as a child's fantasy. The more he talked, the more isolated he felt. He was the sole keeper of this incredible, terrifying secret. His only connection to Bramhall was his CB radio. He'd race home from school every day, switch it on, and wait for the officer's call. Their conversations became a daily ritual. The officer would tell Dom about the city's slow decay. With each disappearance, something was lost. The vibrancy was fading. The buildings seemed a little grayer, the streets a little emptier. The city was dying, and time was running out. Dom felt the weight of it all on his young shoulders. Then, one evening, a new voice broke through the static. It was clear, professional, and American. This is the Central Intelligence Agency. We're monitoring this channel. The CIA had intercepted the strange broadcasts between the boy in England and the police officer in the disappearing Irish city. They spoke to the officer, trying to make sense of the situation, running diagnostics, and treating it like a technical anomaly. But Dom knew this wasn't a problem that could be solved with technology or spycraft. He understood something the adults didn't. This city needed more than just to be fixed. It needed to be remembered. It needed to be seen. While the CIA was busy analyzing, Dom came up with his own plan. It was simple, maybe even naive, but it came from the heart. He realized he couldn't physically go to Bramhall, but he could send the world there. He used his CB radio not just to talk to the officer, but to talk to everyone. He became a broadcaster of hope. He spent every spare moment on the airwaves telling the story of Bramhall to anyone who would listen. He described its cobblestone streets, its charming park, and the brave police officer holding on. He painted a picture so vivid, so compelling, that other radio enthusiasts started to listen, and then they started to talk. The legend of Bramhall began to spread across the CB network. Truckers crossing continents, hobbyists in their basements, they all heard the story of the disappearing city and the boy trying to save it. Dom's plea was simple. Go there. The city needs people. It needs you to see it, to walk its streets, to prove it's real. At first, nothing happened. Weeks turned into months. The officer's voice grew weaker, the city's light dimmer. Dom felt a crushing sense of failure. But he didn't give up. He just kept talking. Then, a breakthrough. A tourist, a bird watcher who had heard the strange tale on his radio, decided to make a trip to Ireland. He found his way to Bramhall and sat in the city park. As he sat there, a robin landed on a branch and began to sing, a simple, beautiful moment. The police officer reported it to Dom that night. For the first time in a long time, there was a spark of hope. The city hadn't disappeared quite as completely that night. A few days later, a group of travelers, who some accounts say were Chinese businessmen on a detour, stepped foot into the city. They walked the streets, visited the shops, and took photos. They were followed by another family, then another couple. People, drawn by the strange legend they'd heard over the airwaves, started coming to Bramhall. They were proving it existed. With every visitor, every footstep, every laugh that echoed in the streets, Bramhall grew stronger. The nightly disappearances became less severe. The grayness receded, replaced by color and life. The city was healing. It wasn't saved by government agencies or complex machinery. It was saved by the love of a child, a love so pure it inspired others to act. It was saved by people coming together, all because a lonely 10-year-old boy refused to let a city be forgotten. Dom became a hero, a modern-day legend whispered on the radio waves. But what about the lonely boy in his bedroom? Was he still alone? No, the city he saved made sure of that. The people of Bramhall never forgot their young savior. They reached out, they visited, they made him a part of their community. The boy who once talked to strangers in the static found a family in the city he brought back from the brink. He was never alone again. This story reminds us that sometimes the biggest changes are started by the smallest voices. It's about the power of connection, of believing in the impossible, and knowing that one person's voice, no matter how small, can be enough to save a world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more incredible tales. See you next time.